region hugely famous for its food, massively celebrated for its wine. A region home to mile after mile of vineyards. And the birthplace of possibly the best-known beef dish anywhere. Welcome to Burgundy in France. And be prepared for some of the most delicious food and wine in the world! Burgundy lies in the heart of France, 2.5 hours drive southeast of the capital, Paris. My journey starts in the north near Auxerre, takes me to Dijon, the regional capital, and down south to Charolles, home to the most famous cattle in France. Burgundy is best known for what's called la cuisine bourgeoise, simple peasant cooking that makes the most of what comes from the land. It's also renowned for the wine it lends its name to, deep dark reds that come from what some people believe to be the best stretches of vineyard in the world. My mission? To find out what makes Burgundy's food and wine so famous the world over. Coming up in the show, I'll be finding out how one town in southern Burgundy celebrates the end of their grape harvest. If my back is broken, I need a drink! Learning if I've got what it takes to be a head wine waiter in a top French restaurant. Bit nervous. And I'll be coming into very close quarters with the most famous cattle in the world. It's all about bottoms. Lesson number 1 in French cuisine. Forget supermarket shopping. When a Burgundian wants top-notch fresh produce, they only go to one place, their local market. This weekly market in Joigny has been running since 1828. I've just got to show you these carrots, they're fantastic. Look at these. They've got green, really fresh, and I can actually twist them and break the tops off like that. And you can hear how delicious and fresh they are. And that's the great thing about the market here, is you can come, you can touch things, you can look at things, you can feel them, you can smell them, and that's exactly what being in a market in France is all about. All the fruit and vegetables in this market are grown completely naturally and come from small local producers. These tomatoes are amazing. Look. They're really homegrown, you can see. This is a good sign, not a bad thing. The fact that they've got markings on them means they've actually been ripened in the sun. I'd been reminded of a very important lesson. The first step towards great cooking is great ingredients, which is why so many people buy their groceries at a market, including the most famous chef in France. The tiny town of Saulieu is home to France's most renowned chef. Bernard Loiseau will only use top ingredients in his restaurant, which is what makes his food the best. He believes the secret of Burgundy's cuisine lies in just one thing: simplicity.
Le secret du bon goût, c'est les produits, d'abord. D'abord les produits, de qualité.
Saying that the true great food is down to great ingredients, basically, and that they're cooked at the last minute and they're not covered in cream, and I have to say I couldn't agree with him more. Bernard is one of only 2 chefs in Burgundy to have 3 Michelin stars to his name. The Michelin star is the greatest accolade you can award a chef in Europe. To have 3 means you know your pâtés from your parfaits. So how hard is it to produce food this good? In a Michelin-star restaurant, there is somebody for every section. We've got Mr. Fish here, we've got Mr. Meat over there, we've got Mr. Salad, there's dessert people. I mean, everybody knows their station. I'm just trying to fit in here at the moment. It's amazing. We've got scallops here. They've been steamed with a little bit of olive oil and some pepper. I'm now putting a bit of butter on, and then they're going to go in the oven.
Ça, c'est salsifis, ça.
Oh, salsifis. Very French. Delicious.
Ça, c'est incroyable, ça.
It's kind of like celery meets leek meets kind of...
D'abord cuit dans l'eau. Cuit dans l'eau, d'abord.
Oui.
Bien
Cooked in water.
Et après,
and then,
confit.
And then fried in oil. Delicious. Well, each dish brings out the natural flavour of the food and doesn't rely on heavy sauces and fancy garnishes.
Ça, c'est salsifis.
2 sols et une canette rosée pour 2.
A Okay, our duck here is roasting. It looks fantastic. I'm just going to baste it with the extra oil. This will help give it the most wonderful colour and flavour. Every ingredient is tasted and then tasted again by Bernard. Nothing but the best gets past his palate. Lots of perfumes, lots of flavours. He's a passionate man. This is foie gras and truffles, two of the most richest, exotic things in the world. And what he's done is he's actually put the truffles in the centre of the foie gras and then cooked it. So when you break in, you get this amazing aroma of truffles. And I wish I could have that for my supper. But Bernard has a different supper in mind for me, the famous Burgundian dish, frog's legs. Here's the frog's legs. Bon. Look at these! They're completely mad-looking things, but apparently they're going to be absolutely delicious. So the first thing to do is to trim down the frog's legs until they form baby drumsticks. Oh, okay. Makes them easier to eat. Season them with lots of salt and pepper and dip in flour. Now, Bernard, quelqu'un m'a dit que c'est un aphrodisiaque. Ça, c'est vrai?
Oui.
Oui?
Oui, bien sûr.
Oh, Bernard.
Maintenant, on va les cuire.
Right, well, now we're going to cook them. Melt a large lump of butter and then add some duck fat. This will stop the butter from burning.
Bien chanté.
Ouais.
Tu écoutes le bruit là?
These are the pan singing. Okay, now tip in your frog's legs. They're going to cook for about 3 minutes. Turn them occasionally to stop them burning.
La cuisine, c'est de l'amour. C'est de l'amour.
Oh, oui. Now, Bernard's saying that food is about love. Out they come, let them drain. Right, time to move on. There's nothing that goes better with frog's legs than garlic. We're going to make a purée. C'est bon le goût, hein? C'est très foncé. Ouais. C'est un aphrodisiaque?
Aphrodisiaque aussi.
Oui.
Grenouille, persil, ail, tout aphrodisiaque.
Aphrodisiaque overload in this kitchen. So place your garlic bulbs into some cold water, bring to the boil, and then blitz to form a yummy purée. Fantastique!
Wow, c'est juste.
Oui, c'est incroyable. Right, the garlic's done. Let's move on to our parsley. Plunge into boiling water for about 3 to 4 minutes until it's a vibrant green colour. Now plunge straight into freezing cold water and then blitz it up to form a purée, adding a little bit of extra water if you need to. Oh, okay. Look, that colour is incroyable. To serve this, put a huge pile of the green purée on the centre of the plate. On top of that, place a large spoonful of the garlic purée. And then surround with your crispy frog's legs.
Voilà. Un peu de persil, un peu de l'ail.
A little bit of the parsley sauce,
voilà.
a little bit of the garlic.
Voilà.
Ready?
Regarde. Voilà.
Incredible. We've got the taste, the freshness of the parsley, the creaminess of the garlic, and then the crispy legs of frog's legs.
Mais c'est incroyable, incroyable, c'est fantastique. Hein?
The beauty of Burgundy is that you don't have to eat in top restaurants to find fantastic food. Sometimes the very best cooking is to be found in the most unexpected places. I set out for the village of Villeberny, deep in the heart of Burgundy countryside, in search of some genuine rustic cooking. When farmer's wife Marie-Françoise wants to eat out, she doesn't go to a 3-starred restaurant. In fact, she only goes as far as her own backyard. Marie-Françoise has been married to a traditional French farmer for 30 years, but this particular farmer's wife is far from traditional. Using only their own farm produce, Marie-Françoise and 14 of her mates have gone into the restaurant business in a big way. Not content with simply growing their own ingredients, they cook them too. La Grange is a ferme auberge. That means it's a restaurant where the food comes straight from the farmyard. Started 20 years ago by one bored farmer's wife who'd had enough of being at home, these days La Grange is a successful business. On the menu today is tarte Dijonnaise, which is with cheese and onions and tomatoes and, of course, Dijon mustard. First of all, Marie-Françoise rubs flour and butter together to make the pastry base. Meanwhile, I had my own task. I've got to cut the onions. For a dish like this, the vegetables are simply sliced. This is a rustic tart, not nouvelle cuisine. Even our cooking utensils have a Burgundian twist. Well, that's classic. In Burgundy, they use wine bottles instead of rolling pins. After rolling out the pastry, it's time for me to slice some tomatoes and cook them together with the onions. Now the exciting bit. I add the special ingredient that puts the Dijon into tarte Dijonnaise. Voila. Voila. Dijon mustard all over the bottom of the pastry. Delicious. Now we're going to put the cooked tomatoes and onions on top of the mustard. That's so easy, no draining, nothing. And for the final touch, a good scattering of traditional French cheese. This is French Emmental cheese, and it is delicious for cooking with, one of my favourites. Into the oven, and in half an hour my tarte Dijonnaise is ready to eat. 1 o'clock and 80 hungry customers sit down for their lunch. Also on the menu, simple roast chicken and a potato gratin. Straight from the farm and onto the table. Unlike a Michelin-starred restaurant, there is no foie gras or steamed scallops on this table. Nevertheless, the cooking here is every bit as good, but in a completely different way. The food here is fantastic. So good, in fact. This gentleman has driven 2.5 hours from Paris to eat here. And this lady always comes on a special occasion. It's also incredibly good value. You can eat a 3-course meal with cheese and wine for a mere 110 francs. That's about $15. And the great thing is that you know where every mouthful has come from. My tarte Dijonnaise is fantastic, and it's the mustard that really gives it its unique flavour. Time for me to find out a little more about the most famous condiment in the world. My journey takes me south, cross-country, to the medieval and majestic city of Dijon, the regional capital of Burgundy. This is the town where the Dukes of Burgundy had their residence in the 14th century. Mustard was already growing in popularity all over France, but the Dukes ordered huge amounts of it to be brought to Dijon for their feasts. So Dijon began making mustard itself, and by the 18th century, it had become the greatest mustard-producing centre in France. Mustard was originally used as a form of preserving. It concealed the taste of meat that had been sitting around too long. These days, the French consume 50,000 tonnes of the stuff every year. And here in Dijon, they like it hot. Meet Bruno Louvrier. His family have been making Dijon mustard for the last 200 years. Bruno first tasted mustard when he was 2 years old, and he hasn't stopped tasting since. So tell me, Bruno, which is the most original? Because I've never seen so many mustards before in my life.
Yeah, the most original is Dijon mustard.
This plain one here?
Yeah.
It's just plain Dijon.
Would you like to have a taste?
Okay, go on. Is it very strong?
Yeah, it's quite strong, actually.
Okay. Now this, I'm familiar with. This is great to cook with, isn't it?
This is the most famous mustard because it's Dijon mustard. You can use it for hot dish as well, but you want to put that at the last minute because you know the mustard.
Flavor will
yeah,
go.
exactly, exactly.
On peut tester aussi, please.
What?
Yeah, sure. It's Mrs. Villain.
Hello. Is that your favourite one?
Delicious.
Not too strong?
No, delicious.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
So let me have a try of this one. This has got nuts in it. I don't like that one. Sorry.
You don't like that one? Okay. It's
Hot
not
red
good.
peppers.
Yeah.
Shall I have a taste?
Yeah, sure.
But you say-
I'm not tasting this one.
I'm going to be bold. I'm going to take a big bite.
A big one, yeah. Oh, wow, wow, wow. What she is gone. Yeah. You won't be able to talk anymore, you know, it's going to be
now I'm
hard.
gonna-
Yeah.
Everyone knows that the French love their breads and pastries. They eat 120 pounds of them per person per year. But in Spice-Mad Dijon, not content with just hotting up their meat, the Dijonnais also spice up their bread.